First million was around 2011-12.
I would be probably 23 and that's
Same.
where I hit first $1 million.
Probably a couple of years back when I did some calculation, put everything together in a worksheet. So I realized, okay, I'm there in that kind of that number thing.
So it was when I was 26, today I'm 38.
My story of financially independence is only through salary. For some it may be a 5-year journey, for some it may be a 15, for some it may be a 25-year journey. Let us say if somebody is earning 1 lakh and versus somebody who is earning 5 lakhs. Now obviously the one who is earning 5 lakhs per month will become financially independent faster, right? But it is not that the 1 lakh guy cannot become. The 1 lakh guy is used to that 1 lakh lifestyle, the 5 lakh guy is used to 5 lakh lifestyle, and somebody who earns 5 crores per month, and there are people who earn at that level, I mean for them their lifestyles are different. So at the lifestyle that you are today, I think even a person who is earning 1 lakh or 50,000 can also, maybe a longer journey, a little more stricter journey, but it is definitely possible. But if somebody is earning 50,000 and says, I want to retire like Anil Ambani, Mukesh Ambani. No, if that is the story, then it's a wrong expectation, right?
Everyone has 24 hours only. What you do with them is what will matter in the end. Starting point can be low or high for some people, that's okay.
Have you guys ever been in a job that you didn't really enjoy?
I was lucky because I was thrown out of that job and I got a better one.
So when I quit my one of the previous jobs, I took a break for 18 months. And at that time I was clear I can survive without a paycheck for 5 years at least. So that gave me the confidence to try many things. I learned a lot, I did a lot of certifications, I tried out certain CTO service, CSO service kind of things. I consulted a lot of startups. But if you are stuck, if you don't have reserves, like you said, if you don't have reserves, you can't take that risk. For that you have to have certain reserves and limit your liabilities.
How is your relationship with money change over years?
So for me, I've always been inspired by creating things. So in that sense, money has always been a side effect. I got lucky in my early 20s.
That's mainly because of Wingify.
Yes. Yeah, as money was accumulating, I think interestingly it gave me an existential crisis because you assume, right, when you have a good amount of money, things will change dramatically, but nothing was changing. And that's when I realized that, it's just like one aspect of life amongst many other aspects.
So in the initial part, I was chasing money. I come from a very humble background, so didn't start like with a lot of money. So I started with my financial journey around 2007. That is just around the mortgage crisis which happened. So that gave me a good start, and I've been into investment banking. So I have the unfair advantage of having the knowledge. So I've used that to my advantage, and I've used whatever surplus cash we had between me and my wife. Double income obviously helped. There was a point when I realized that was when I moved to Pune. I was working for Barclays at that time. So what I realized working for a bank, obviously, which I've done for most of my life, is you don't have to earn enough to last your life. You have to manage your money in a way that the money takes care of itself, growing and doing stuff on its own.
My first salary was maybe around 6,000 rupees per month, in hand 5,400. So started from there.
Which year was this?
That was 1995.
Got it.
One of my first jobs that I did in late 90s when I was at Citibank, I was heading their collections and recovery for Punjab region. And that's where I realized people would have swanky cars and one of the best bungalows, but they won't still have the capacity to pay the EMIs. And I think from there onwards, my relationship with money has been not something that I aspire to have beyond a certain limit, and as long as you are happy with what you have. So I drew a line and I'm very happy with that.
A lot of people that I meet of my age, they don't know that I would almost in April cross 20 years of my work life at 38. Because I exactly started when I turned 18. So I was always a bright student, but unfortunately in my 12th standard, I really scored bad. So bad that I was passed with grace marks. And I wanted to buy a bike because everybody around wanted a bike, and my dad said, "Kya kiya aisa life mein ki tujhe bike do?" That was the trigger that I started working. So if you see me talking to you right now today, given this background, I would just say I'm lucky. But this luck has come with a lot of hard work. At 38, I have actually started feeling that I have spent enough time, right? And I want to take a break now. I mean, I'm sure each one of us sitting here, priority is not money. Like say for example, for me, right, priority is not money, my priority is my health. Priorities, I love adventure. I want a CPL license. Priorities, I've gone off sports for a long time. I want to go back, start playing.
One perspective I'll add is it's also about a motivation. All of us start with something, like you want to create value. So my biggest motivation has been that my kids should get what I didn't. So if they want to get into a college whose fees is very high, I want to ensure they get into that college, they don't have to drop out because I can't afford the fees.
These motivations change with time.
Absolutely.
These priorities change with time. So I have done for more than a decade, I have done shifts where I would leave for office around 1 or 2 in the afternoon and come back at around 2 at night. It reached a stage where I was seeing my kids only on weekends. And as someone I was speaking to made me realize, he says, by the time your kids cross 12, you spent 90-95% of your time with your kid. Now today, if you're asking for me, the most valuable thing is I'm able to spend time with my family. It is irreplaceable, but it is important that we keep shifting our priorities and the motivation with time. It can't be the same motivation for life. What we needed at 18, what we need at 38 versus what we'll need at 60 or 70 will be very different.
What are the challenges that you didn't have before retiring or before you became financially independent?
My biggest challenge, and 99% of salaried people probably face it, is I misunderstood inflation completely. A lot of us take it as a 5.5 or 6% kind of number in our calculations. But if we go to the subheads of it, for me the biggest miscalculation was inflation on education. So when I was doing my initial maths when my kids were born, I thought that in 30, 35, 40 lakh I would be able to manage the education of both my kids after adjusting for inflation at about 5%. Today probably a college 1 year, a decent college would be 10 lakh a year. So school is about 4 or 5 lakh a year,
Really?
something like that.
That's a surprise.
So a lot of us misread these kind of numbers. That is where I also did it wrong. That is why I had to work slightly longer. I thought of retiring around 40, financial retirement. 45, sorry. But I couldn't do that only because I misread the education part of inflation.
And
So
if
I
you can
misread
add
that.
to your point, Manish, if you have already factored in, great. The other thing that a lot of people miscalculate is on health side of it. Health definitely it inflates around 12 to 15% in India.
Yeah.
A simple hospitalization for let's say 2 days, which have earlier cost maybe 30-40,000 rupees 10 years back, today you get hospitalized, and I'm not talking about ICU and all, and for 2-3 days you could end up spending a lakh of rupees.
So how's your portfolio allocation like?
So it's 60-40 equity debt. In fact, off late it has changed a little, 65-35, but I am slowly trying to reduce and shift my equity to the debt portion of it.
What about you, Manish?
Essentially my portfolio has changed themes recently. Earlier it was about 75% equity, 25% debt. Right now it is about 75% debt, 25% equity at my personal level, which is a larger portfolio.
I think mine is maybe 98% equity, almost all of it.
Except emergency fund or
Yeah, except like a little bit of emergency fund in liquid.
what about you?
Same 100% equity. So while there are extremely fashionable investment products available, I can still tell you I run a 70% of my cash flow as SIP every month. So with every increment in cash flow that I take home, the SIP amount goes up by that value. So whatever I've been able to accumulate is purely basis this clear discipline. Maybe currently because I just got through a good deal on some land, it is 30-70, but I've always been 100% equity. While this might go against what we preach in general, but I think it's personal and I understand it. So
Thing,
I understand
your
it.
level
So
of risk may be
yeah.
very different from what you tell others. Thing I can very confidently say is ESOPs aside, or if you get valuation through a startup, keeping all of that aside, there is no other way that you can get into consistent and a confident multiplication of money unless and until you are in equity. I would not even count real estate. People will obviously feel offended, but I'll clearly say real estate at a certain point of time will not give you the same kind of returns that you will get through equity over a long period of time.
How did you decide that this much money is enough?
So I have a very detailed Excel file which sort of gives me a huge amount of comfort. I've been tracking and fine tuning it over the last couple of years, which tells me what are my expenses, at what rate it will increase, what are my potential future expenses which will come in, factor all of that in, and that gave me a number.
while we are talking about whether we have the monies to retire or not, it is about what do you do after retirement.
That's a very important aspect.
I think because once you've retired, imagine you worked for 20 years of your life, 18 hours, 16 hours, 14 hours, 12 hours, and suddenly you have the monies in the bank, you can do whatever you want to do with it, but you don't know how do you spend your entire day.
Take my example. I mean, I was like, boss, I am done. I am going to retire and sit back, relax and do nothing in life. You won't believe, the day was my last working day. 2 days after that, on the Monday, I was the most restless person saying, what have I done? And I was like, boss, I need to be busy again. I need to do something.
Exactly.
And I was clear, I don't want to do an 8 or 10 hours. I was like 3 to 4 hours a day. I still have to be constructively busy. And versus when you have people at home, you don't know what your equation changes a lot with your spouse
100%.
if you're sitting at home all the time. So you really need to think through it.
Absolutely. There's one more element to it which probably both of us can actually appreciate. It's slightly on the kind of negative side maybe. Around the age of 50, there are two things which happen. Somewhere around that, we start losing our parents. That's one realization. Somewhere around that time. The second is our kids start moving to colleges. That is where loneliness strikes. You might have millions, not 1 million, 2, 5 million. What will you do with that money at that time? You want to enjoy between say 30, 35, 40
Exactly.
kind of age when you are at the prime of your health, when the kids are around and parents are around. What is the point in running after money for 20 years and realizing there is no one there besides your spouse maybe to enjoy the money with?
I think another aspect of this, what you've gone through, is also letting go of, let's say, for lack of a better word, power. Like you would have as a like head of a large bank, a lot of power over an influence, and I think a lot of people get high from it.
Letting go of that power was not very difficult for me because I really didn't enjoy what was coming along with it. There are people who get a kick that if they don't fly every week, they'll feel restless at home, right? The fact that I stopped flying has made me feel better.
So happy to hear that. I was just discussing with him a story of one of our clients, very well paid, highly connected, right? Moved out of his job, has everything that you would really want and die for, but is not happy because he does not have the power.
That's what interesting. When we talk about money, I think the power aspect does come
Yes.
along with it,
Absolutely, absolutely.
and it's not often talked about. But a lot of people chase money for the power high it gives, not necessarily the
you have to
material things you
decide
can
power
buy.
or peace of mind. I don't think both come together.
So I was just asking, as experiment, I was asking all my teammates, saying, if you had 20 crores today, what would you do? Right? All the guys who are in early 20s said they want to travel the world. All of them, right? All the guys in 30s, they had a clear idea कि ये पैसे लगा के कुछ ये करेंगे जिससे पैसे भी मिलेंगे.
I'll control more people.
हाँ, and 10 लोग मुझे report करेंगे. Is it even a good motivation to get into just to become rich or to get rich? Should one do entrepreneurship?
I think I think it's a misconception that if you become an entrepreneur, you would become rich. 1.5 decades back, you would want to be an entrepreneur because salaries were not really paid well for. Today, fortunately, unfortunately, there are numerous opportunities available which pay you exceptionally well. Your question is actually not that if you become an entrepreneur, you will make more money. Salaries are brilliant today.
I think on an average you'll make money with a salary. There are studies to back it up. Entrepreneurs average make less money than salaried people.
Yes, statistically. Yeah.
But if you think about optionality of making a lot of money, entrepreneurship has a lot of optionality.
What advice you would have for these guys?
Okay, what advice I would have for youngsters, for you?
Young millennials.
Young millionaires like you. And I think both of you did elucidate that when you were talking about your experiences. One is hard work. I mean, you may keep repeating luck, but I will say it's the hard work, right? It's just your humility that's coming out, but the reality is there is no replacement for hard work, number one. Number two, I would say it's easier to make money, much more difficult to preserve it, and much more even difficult to grow it. If you have seen those KBC winners, I was reading articles that those guys have lost whatever money they earned, right? Because they thought, now I'm a millionaire or I've become a crorepati, I have made it. So I think it's important that making money, I wouldn't say it's easy, but it's done. Now is how do you preserve it and how do you grow it? Last thing I would say is, so your lifestyle is like this, your money net worth is like this. Now as your net worth goes up, do not keep your lifestyle at the same pace. keep it a little low. There's a difficult line you should draw, but I think maintain that gap, because in bad times, that gap is what will help you survive without having to compromise on basics of life.
Don't keep a pending checklist with you, pending list that of things that you would do when you would be 40, 50 or something. Keep checking those boxes. Definitely don't do that. I have done that for 10 years and that is one regret I have.
I would add one more point. I think generally when we talk about financial freedom and retirement, we only talk about income and expenses, but we generally forget that there is another variable we have in our hand, which is skills. So really, instead of just thinking about that, either you increase your income or you decrease your salary, what if you really focus on
Upskilling yourself.
upskilling?
Yes.
So that-
And I think in that sense, knowledge is power, right? How can you become, like how can you dramatically increase your levels of income? Is just purely through
Yeah.
knowledge.
So we'll start the rapid fire now.
Problems you face being a millionaire
Expectations.
from?
In general, I think there is too much of expectation from your own self and people around.
I think it's the idea that people feel if you have money, your problems are solved, but they are not.
This social thing in India about not talking about money, like that is something which gets on my head all the time.
For me, it's managing that money efficiently.
Who is your inspiration in life?
Initial decade Bill Gates, then Jeff Bezos, now it is Charlie Munger.
I think for me, any creator is an inspiration who creates something from 0 to 1.
So I think I've learned a lot more from people who I did not enjoy working with, and what that taught me was what not to do.
Practicality, father, emotion, mother, and life, wife.
Got it. Did you get that question before or like? Because
I don't know. I just got some time.
what is the best and worst financial advice you have gotten?
I think worst is definitely investing in real estate. The best is that, that active fund managers don't end up beating index.
Worst was to go into tax saving instruments like PPF, PF, NSCs and so on, ATC typically. Best was around 2007 when I finally got an advice to start with equity.
The worst has been my best friend advised me a couple of stocks early in my life, and today they are not even listed. So total money gone down the drain. Best advice has been mutual fund sahi hai.
Best has been save more than what you spend. Worst is telling me save everything that you can so that you have a secured future.
Which car do you drive?
I drive an Audi
Got it. Which one?
A4.
I think I have an Octavia.
I have a old Honda WRV. I don't buy new car and I don't drive, I take an Uber just to save time.
I have an Innova.
Yeah.
I'm pretty happy with that.
What is the best part of having money?
I can buy time.
Freedom.
Same thing, freedom.
Being able to buy books without looking at their price.
What do you value the most in life?
Relationships.
I think having a good time.
Time, it also impacts relationships otherwise.
What I value most is freedom, and freedom at multiple levels. Freedom of time, freedom of decisions, freedom of who I want to maintain my relationships with. So all of those things.
100 million or 100 million followers?
Both
If you had to choose one.
followers.
100 million followers.
I would take 100 million.
I would take 100 million.
Go this.
Clear generation gap.
Yes. 100 million or 25 years of healthy life?
At this juncture, I'll take that to 100 million.
Wrong timing, same here. I would rather prefer 100 million than additional 25 years at this stage.
25 years of fit
Got it.
life.
No additional 25. Same life, 25 good years.